Wait, am I live? Holy crap, I'm live. Welcome into week 13, Sunday Scaries with Nutmeg 2 Palmetto. I am flying solo, as you can see this week. Bucks McGee had some alternative plans. He could not join this week, but that's okay. He'll be back at a future later date. So I'm going to do a quick rundown of the games today, and it was a little bit more competitive than what we've seen of late. I'll start off right at the top of the scoreboard because it's one of the games I got to see a little bit of. What's wrong with the Atlanta Falcons? I mean, for real. This team, they don't have a lot of talent. I will make no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They do not have a lot of talent. However, they do have played generally a lot harder than their talent dictates this year. And they couldn't beat the Steelers. Now, I'm not one to talk. My Colts somehow couldn't beat the Steelers, but the Steelers have always been a bit of a boogeyman in recent years to my Colts, so I can't necessarily totally be surprised by that. But the Falcons, they have no discernible talent past Patterson, and London's been up and down. Mariota's just a stopgap. I'm really just as much surprised that they've put in anything similar to a competitive effort this year as I am that they're remotely close to first place. I really just I can't figure out. I cannot figure out for this needs to be in front of me. This might need to be in front of me. Yeah, there we go. I cannot figure out for the life of me how the Falcons could not figure out a way to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are terrible. Oh, so I don't. And at the end of the day, does this game matter too much? Not really. The Steelers are way behind in their division. The Falcons are still kind of close to first place, only due to the fact that the Buccaneers have just been woefully underperformed by record this year. So, unfortunately, I cannot get Bucks McGee's opinion on that, and the Bucks play tomorrow, so maybe that's another aspect of that, but that's okay. Next up, we have Packers Bears. Now, this one, the Bears are awful. Let's not make any bones about that. However, and the Packers have been a huge disappointment. However, the Bears generally, the last couple weeks, no, but they have had a little bit of a peak in the middle of the season where the Bears actually have shown a pulse, and they just came right back to fall on their face. So 18 unanswered points by the Packers in the fourth quarter. That is awful. Overall, outscored 18-3 in the second half were the Bears. And I think the Bears have gone back to the doldrums that we know they exist in. So there's not too much to take out of this game, so I don't want to waste too much more time on this. But this, I thought, from a gambling perspective, I thought the Bears still might cover. I think they were getting 4. I'm sorry. The Bears were getting 4. So I'm like, all right, I'll take the points at home. The Packers, by the way, have been my nemesis as far as gambling is concerned lately. But this game I can't totally figure out. I can't figure out either one of these teams. The Packers have all the talent in the world. Rodgers supposed to be the greatest of all time, right? And the Bears, they've always had decent defense. Fields hasn't been the worst quarterback this season. So they're again, there's not much to take out of this. At this point, the Lions are back ahead of the Packers, and we'll get into that in a second. This one, I don't know. I think the Packers are long. Their best days of the season are long behind them, and the Bears are just dreadful. And I thought they had a pulse. I thought they were showing a pulse, but I guess not. Shame on me. Never going to pick the Bears to cover a spread again. Next up, the Lions. Much shaking off. Let me pull up their schedule real quick because they've actually been playing a lot better of late. I think they won at least 2 in a row, right? Where are they? No, they did drop last week with the Bills. Yes, I remember that game. I was up north for that one. But prior to that one, they had won 3 in a row. So now they've won 4 of their last 5 games. And Bears certainly had a lot of hype behind them this year. The Bears, I'm sorry. The Bears, no one had hype behind the Bears. Whew, too many beers today. Be mindful how you speak on the Dolphins. Oh, Big Lou, don't worry. I'll keep your feelings in consideration when I get to the Dolphins game, just a little bit. But the Lions are definitely back. I unfortunately I can't share these to the screen, or can I? No, I can't. That's too bad. Man, I should go back to StreamYard then, I guess. At least I could put the comments on the screen. Um, the Lions, they had so much hype going into the season with Hard Knocks and all that momentum and all the energy that Motor City Dan Campbell brings to that team, and they fell flat on their face to start the season off. But four out of the last 5 games they've won. Definitely could have beaten the Bills. Huge effort on Thanksgiving. That's right. That was Thanksgiving. I was not up north for that. That was Thanksgiving game. I was thinking of the wrong game because the Bills play every game every week in Detroit lately. But yeah, Lions are back. They're officially better than the Packers right now. Lord knows they're not going to catch a division, but hey, you never know. The playoff standings are a little all up in the air for both conferences, so that definitely could. That Lions might be. We'll look at the playoff standings a bit later on, but who knows? The Lions might be getting back into it. Meanwhile, the Jaguars back down to the doldrums where they belong. I'm not going to spend too much time on them. Jets, Vikings. Ooh. I want to be tender with the Jets a little bit, I guess. I shouldn't, but I will out of respect because they are still a playoff team at the moment. The Jets have been playing way over the hedge. Mike White the last week was a huge plus for them. And they should have lost today. That's fair. Vikings are the second best team in the NFC. F the Jets. That's right. Spoken like the true Dolphins fan that Big Lou is. But honestly, maybe the Jets are just coming back down to earth right now. It might just be coming back to earth right now. Maybe this was a wake up call. Finally, Lord knows the Jets have been longing for it for quite a bit this season. Playing with fire, so to speak, playing with fire, playing with an inferno. And the Vikings are in second place in the conference, and they're not. They're winning the games they should. I mean, you know what? The Jet, can you give them too much credit for beating the Jets? Probably not. But hey, you don't control your schedule. You're supposed to beat the Jets. You're supposed to whoop their ass. They won kind of close, only by 5, but the Vikings haven't been blowing out a lot of teams, so that's okay. And the Vikings did cover. So as the old adage goes, good teams win, great teams cover. Next up, a tie. How did this happen? Washington has played themselves back into playoff contention of late. Good on them. The Giants have been coming back down to earth. They did put a charge into this game. Washington was up for most of this game, I believe. Giants put a charge in to get back into it. I believe the Giants should still be ahead of them in standing, but the Giants at 7-4-1 look way worse than the Commanders do at 7-5-1. So I think Washington is probably set up better going into the stretch run than the Giants. I would not be surprised. I think people are still sleeping on Heineke. I don't know why. It's the only quarterback that came remotely close to beating Tom Brady when the Bucs won the Super Bowl. They're still sleeping on Heineke, but I think Washington's in a decent position. I think they are in a decent position going in the stretch run now. Are they going to do anything? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But we'll see. We'll get the playoffs in a second. I mean, right now, playoff standings are Washington is actually, wait, did that go to playoffs? Oh, it did not go to playoffs. Hold on. Let me let this actually refresh. NFC, Washington. Oh, no, they're not. Something screwed up here. Because I'm pretty sure maybe the tie hurts them. So they are in 8th place. So they are behind the Seahawks by virtue of that tie. So I guess in this scenario, the tie does hurt them. But I mean, they're right there. That's a half game, if that, behind Seattle. So Washington's right in it, and I think that they definitely are a force. They have decent defense, and Heineke's playing really well. The Giants are coming back down to the earth. Giants are at this point. I would not be surprised if the Giants just fall off the face of the earth to close the season out. Speaking of the NFC East, next game up is Philadelphia. I did catch a little bit of this game as well. Somehow that game was available in South Carolina. I have no idea why. Oh, I've got an ad playing. Pardon me. Sorry about that. I did catch a little bit of this game. They came out. Eagles came out firing on all cylinders. Titans came back and tied it. Scored 2 more touchdowns in the second. Do the math. That's 21-10 at halftime. They scored 14-0 in the second half. Eagles were more or less in control of this game. Titans are doo-doo. Goodbye, Tennessee. And you know what? Good riddance, too, because I don't want to see it. I can't stomach another season of seeing the Titans back their way into a number 1 seed. And Bucks McGee's not here to just tell me I'm being salty about the Titans. Not this week. Maybe next week he'll be back to tell me I'm just being a bitter old man. Old man, I'm not old. Now the next game, one of our favorite teams to take a dump on his Craft Bruiser's favorite squad, the Denver Broncos. Did I think they were going to win this game? Probably not. Broncos aren't good. Let's be completely honest about that. They are the most disappointing team, objectively speaking, because obviously I'm pretty disappointed in my Colts. But Broncos are, objectively speaking, probably the most disappointing team in the league this year. Let's ride. And Baltimore somehow, they've been pretty equally disappointing. Now, they're 8-4 after this game. They did take care of business, but they're not an impressive 8-4, I don't think. And I'm thinking giving 8 to the Broncos. Yes, the Broncos are terrible, but the Ravens have no business giving 8 points to anybody in the league this year. So I took the Broncos to cover, and they were actually up for a decent bet. And then Lamar Jackson got hurt, which that might in of itself just completely tank the Ravens' chance to do anything down the stretch running into the playoffs. Oh, sorry, I had a few beers today. I'm burping a little bit. I cannot buy the Ravens 8-4. I really cannot. It's not an impressive 8-4, and now Lamar's out. I'm just right now. I look at this game, and the only thing I'm happy about is the fact that Denver did keep it close, so they covered. And like I said, good teams win, great teams cover, right? Oh, next up, let's look at the box score for this one, because this one had an interesting note about it. It was, of course, Deshaun Watson's first game back in the league in a year and a half. Of course, the league set it up, as shifty as this sounds, to be against his old team in Houston. Didn't have that great a performance. 12 for 22, barely 130 yards, threw a pick, only 53% pass rating. So Watson was not very impressive in this game. However, Cleveland did win. Now, maybe that's just because Houston is completely miserable this year and just at this point just trying to secure the number 1 pick in the draft. But Cleveland did pull away. They are now 5-7. Where do they stand in the AFC playoffs? Not too shabby, actually. So you have Cincinnati, Miami, and the Jets. The Jets being the 7th seed, sitting at 7-5. Only a game back are the Patriots and the Chargers at 6-6. After that, 5-7 are the Vegas Raiders, which we'll get to in a little bit, and the Chargers are 5-7, and somehow the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't understand that whatsoever. But the Browns are kind of on the fringe a little bit. Do I think they'll make it? No, but they're definitely playing themselves in. And if Watson can look anything like the old Watson instead of the Watson he was today, do they have a shot? Sure, they have a shot. Maybe I'm just being positive and trying not to be a jerk on a Sunday night, but it is what it is. Oh, 1 o'clock. That is it for the one. Oh no, that is not true. Is that? Oh yes, these are all 4 o'clocks. Yes, that's it for the 1 o'clocks. 4 o'clocks. Lot of activity going these. Now these ones I actually got to watch at least a little bit of all of them. The one because I actually went out for a drink and some food at my local across the street, Carolina Ribs and Wings and Rib House, and they had all 4 games on. Seattle Seahawks going to LA to take on division rival the Rams. Who's going to think anything about this game? The Rams have been wholly disappointing this year. Sitting at 3-9. Seahawks should run away with this, right? I'm trying to think what the line was in this game. Was it 3? Was it 3 or 4? If it was 3, then okay, they covered. If it was 4, they only pushed. So I might be a little disappointed when I check how my picks did. But Seahawks, from a general football perspective, Seahawks did pull out the win. Sitting at 27-23 down the stretch. Huge touchdown by DK Metcalf in the fourth quarter. Huge game by Tyler Lockett. Huge game by Geno Smith. Geno's definitely leading contender for comeback player of the year. 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Got sacked 4 times. But 20-39 for over 360 yards. Not a lot of rushing in this game, but Kenny Walker did get hurt, so that's definitely a potential crack in the armor for Seattle as they enter the stretch run. Tyler Lockett and Metcalf both had over 120 yards receiving. So good game statistically from Seattle. They did what they're supposed to do. They beat a lesser team in the Rams, but I can't look at this with the knowledge of Kenny Walker's injury and think that they're going to be in a better position going forward down the stretch run. Now, they are still in the playoff picture because of Washington's tie. Yes, they are still the 7th seed, but this team was a division leader not that long ago. So they are, I don't want to say their 7-5 looks as bad as, who was I speaking on before? The Ravens 8-4, for example. But at the same time, it doesn't look like a bad 7-5, but it doesn't look like a great 7-5. And I think unfortunately that the Seahawks aren't careful. They could play their way out of this, especially with the Kenny Walker injury. That's not a good look to go on the stretch run. The other ones, all right, Lou, if you're still on the stream. Oh, the Miami Dolphins. What happened? Big Lou, if you're still on the stream, drop in the comments. Tell me what happened. Defend this egregious performance by Tua in the second half. This was just, they just didn't look good. And I was all aboard the Dolphins bandwagon. I thought they were back. I thought they shook off the injury bug. I thought Miami was ready to go. And especially Buffalo not looking as good as they have of late. I thought Miami definitely could be in a position to overtake this division and get back into first place, but today was not their day. Niners actually needed a win like this. They needed a win like this because this team has been, if you just ignore the score, but if you ignore the record, you just look at the way this team plays, they play very explosive. But Jimmy G's just the game manager. And they haven't had like a big standout win in recent weeks to set the Niners apart and to set them apart from the rest of the league. And really they should be, because if you look at it, Seattle's playing way above their head. The Rams are awful. The Cardinals have been extremely disappointing. That game, that team, the Niners, I've been waiting. I've been waiting for the Niners to get back in it. And this I think was the type of game they needed. The Dolphins are a good team. They are. So to see the Niners just come out and be firing on all cylinders and wipe the floor with the Dolphins. Mind you, wipe the floor with the Dolphins with a third-string quarterback, because Jimmy G got hurt today, very early on in the game. So this kid, Percy, is that his name? Tua was still leading. I want to make sure I get this kid's name right, because he actually did have a really good game, really efficient. Brock Purdy, 25-37, over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He had a very efficient game. McCaffrey was on point, 66 yards on the ground, 80 yards through the air, caught a touchdown, 8 grabs. Debo had a very good game. This kid Purdy loves throwing at Debo. He was using McCaffrey a lot. So, I mean, if Jimmy G is out for an extended period of time, this kid could keep the ship afloat. Is he the guy that's going to lead them to the playoffs? I don't know if it gets to that point. Who knows? Hopefully not. Hopefully Jimmy G will be back. But at least today, against a good team, and Tyreek Hill had a hell of a game. Tua, despite all his turnovers, he did put up a lot of yards. But they're also lost by 15, something 15, 16, whatever that is. Whatever that, do the quick math. That I feel like that is a little bit. I feel like this is a little bit of a I don't want to say it's fool's gold, but it you want to feel good about it because the Niners finally had that signature big victory over a good team. But I don't know how good you can feel about it because it's third string quarterback and he played really well. Not going to take anything away from him. But if Jimmy G's out for an elongated period of time, can this kid keep the ship afloat into the playoffs, down the stretch run into the playoffs? Another game from the 4 o'clocks that was super fun was a playoff rematch between the Chiefs and the Bengals. Bengals did come out on top again, but it was a little bit back and forth. Joe Mixon, maybe I missed something. Joe Mixon must be hurt because I didn't see him at all in this game. P. Ryan played exceptionally well. P. Ryan was running the ball all up and down the field. And Burrow just hits people. I mean, Chase had a decent game. He didn't get in the end zone. Chase did have a decent game. Burrow is looking like he shook it off. The Chiefs didn't get a ton of pressure on him. Well, let's look how many times he got sacked. Let's not speak in ignorance. We got the box score right out in front of him. All right, so he did get pressured a little bit. He got sacked 7 times. However, Cincinnati's defense actually sacked Patrick Mahomes 12 times. So Patrick Mahomes had no time at all in this game. The receivers really were not all impressed in the game. Pacheco he had a decent game. I think at this point, Andy Reid just needs to stick to Pacheco as his number 1 running back because I don't know what happened with Cedric CEH. I know he's hurt now, but Edwards-Helaire had fallen out of the rotation long before he got hurt, so he's just an afterthought. And McKinnon he was getting a lot of carries in this little tweener position where since CEH got hurt. But these stupid ads, I'm telling you. But yeah, Pacheco looked good, but nobody could get open. They couldn't protect Mahomes. He got sacked 12 times. Mind you, Burrow got sacked 7 times. That's nothing to write home about, but it looks a lot better than getting sacked 12 times. So I mean, it was pretty close. It's weird. You have the Bengals who started off really struggling and have slowly gone back in it. And then the Chiefs who got off really hot and they kind of play this yo-yo game where they fall back, like, oh, something's wrong with the Chiefs, and they spurt back up. They're like, oh, the Chiefs are back, and then they come back down. So I don't know. I think the only logical breakdown I get from that is the fact that the Chiefs must still be in this light switch mode. You know the term, light switch. Team that's really good. They do the damn thing, but they go into coast mode until they get to the playoffs, and then they think, oh, we could just switch it on, like LeBron James and the Lakers, the Cavs, the Heat, any team LeBron's played for. They just think they can flip the light on and put the pedal to the metal when it's playoff time, and that doesn't necessarily work in football. The Chiefs have found a way to make it work lately, but I think they're still in that mindset, and I don't know if it works. And I think a game like this is a good example because the Chiefs have a lot of holes. Their offensive line clearly is not necessarily always up to snuff. And the defense is that bend but don't break. And if you're bend but don't break against a team with a good offense, with offense players that want to play that week, of course, the other one, super disappointing in the Chargers. And somehow the Raiders are now only a game behind them. The Raiders, who were absolutely dreadful to start the season. And I know their record was really bad at one point, so I kind of want to see what kind of streak they've been on lately. Yes, okay, they knew they had to been on a streak. So they have now won 3 games in a row, the Las Vegas Raiders. And they've actually played themselves a game behind the Chargers with now a better divisional record than the Chargers. And only in this logjam behind the in the hunt playoff teams. So you have the Jets at 7, Patriots at 6-6, Chargers now dropped to 6-6. Then the Raiders, the Browns, the Steelers are all 5-10. So you got this logjam of all these teams with similar records that could make a run if the schedule plays out in their favor down the stretch run here. Whoops, I closed my standings page. That was my fault. So yeah, I'm very disappointed in the Chargers. I mean, the story about this game was Devontae Adams. He was just an absolute animal. I mean, there were a couple plays where he caught long touchdowns on there. He just absolutely just took off and ran like a gazelle. And Jacobs was just running the ball up and down the field the whole game. I mean, I really think at this point the Chargers are just Herbert and nothing else. They can't give this kid any kind of support. The play calling by Staley, he's aggressive, but a little bit suspect. So yeah, I just don't know. I cannot trust the Chargers right now. I just cannot do it. And this would be the last time I take them to cover a game against a team they should win because they're not proving me they can do it. So standing wise, we'll look at the standings before I go lament on the Colts. Well, let me just say this, brother. I am not expecting the Colts to win tonight against Dallas. Not by any stretch of the imagination. I am not expecting the Colts to win. However, they're getting 11 points. They have played a lot harder under Saturday. I think they should be able to cover this. They should be able to cover the spread. The Cowboys could not cover the spread against the Giants on Thanksgiving. When you think the Cowboys should be all full of piss and vinegar because Thanksgiving's their day. Them and the Lions are the only two teams that play every single year on Thanksgiving. They couldn't cover against the Giants. They let the Giants backdoor their way into that. I think the Colts could have a decent chance of covering this game. I do not think they'll win. So do not take the Colts outright. I will not be responsible for you losing your house if you bet the mortgage on that. But we do have I would think we don't have a chance to cover this game. So right now, if we're looking at the playoff standings, Buffalo is in 1 by virtue of their head-to-head win against the Chiefs. Because, of course, the Chiefs have now fallen back with the loss today. They are both 9-3. Baltimore somehow is 8-4. They're holding out to the division based on a tie break with Cincinnati. So they must have a game. They must have a game to go. Titans fall back to 7-5, the weakest 7-5 ever. I mean, if Indianapolis wasn't so terrible this year, but I digress. The first wild card would be Cincinnati, so that would play Tennessee. I would have absolutely no faith in Tennessee to win that game. And that's with Cincinnati up until today not looking the greatest they have, not looking their usual self. Baltimore, Miami. Now, Miami, despite their performance today, even with Lamar, even if Lamar is healthy, I would not have any faith in Baltimore winning this. I think Miami is just the better team. They got some growing pains, but I think they are the better team. If they were to lose to Baltimore, that would just be a very big setback for the Dolphins. So far we've taken 2 wild cards. However, the third wild card is the Jets, and they would right now be playing the Chiefs. So I don't really have any faith that the Jets would beat the Chiefs. So that's okay. So it's looking a little bit more clear, the playoff picture at the moment, as far as forecasting the first round matchups. Do the Patriots have a chance to get in? Yes, they're only a game out, but they didn't look very good against the Vikings. They didn't look very good against the Bills. I think the Patriots are starting to come back down to the earth. They're still a good team. They still got talent. They still play hard. They got a decent defense. I just don't. I think they're coming back down to earth. I don't think Mac Jones is very good. The Chargers, I have at this point, after watching them for the majority of this game today, or not the majority of the game, I should say, but going into a good half of the second quarter and the whole second half, I don't think this team has anything past Justin Herbert. So I would not be very confident in them having a chance. The Raiders, I just think that they dug their hole too deep early on. I think that the Raiders are going to run out of real estate to actually get in the playoffs. So the way it stands right now, unless the Patriots make a run, I think the AFC might be set. Will the group of teams as they stand right now, will it be in the same order? I don't know, probably not. But I think the teams are pretty well locked in because what I've seen out of the Patriots, not impressed. What I've seen out of the Chargers, not enough past the quarterback, and what I've seen out of the Raiders, they have the stuff. They just dug their hole too deep, and I don't think they can climb out of it. Cleveland, similar in the same vein, but obviously that's not necessarily their fault because Watson. They've been waiting all season for Watson to get back, and they've played like a poor team without a quarterback. Although I will say, they actually have a plus 500 strength of schedule. Yeah, strength of schedule. That's what it stands for. Third. NFC wise, Philadelphia smoked Tennessee today, so they maintained first place. Minnesota took care of business with the Jets, so they maintained second place. And then you've got the Niners securing third place. Game over. They do have a game over Seattle, so they are in third place. Tampa will play tomorrow against New Orleans. They beat New Orleans once. New Orleans has, in recent memory, in the Tom Brady era down in Tampa, has been a thorn in their side, but New Orleans is not. It is not the team that was that thorn in the side. It's just the fact that Tampa has had some breaks in the armor this year. But I think they'll generally be fine tomorrow. I'm not too worried about Tampa losing that game. Dallas is the 5th seed, 8-3, probably 9-3 after tonight, but still the 5th seed because Philadelphia's been so unbelievable this year. The Giants maintain the playoffs at the moment with this tie. I feel like they will fall off. I really think the Giants have fallen back down to earth. They have not looked impressive of late. And Seattle maintains that last playoff spot over Washington. Now, Washington, had they won, would have been 8-5. I feel like they probably would have the wild card because if they both have 5 losses, I feel like the tie would go to more wins, and Washington hasn't had their bye week yet. So either one of those teams, I wouldn't be able to bet between the two of them as far as which will get the final wild card spot because the Geno resurgence in Seattle's been impressive. Washington's played very well of late with their defense. I think honestly, I'd be surprised if they both made the playoffs since the Giants fell out because I really think the Giants have just come back down to earth. And as far as the also-rans, I think this is probably right now. I think Washington's the only other team that could go in right now because the Lions, similar to the Raiders, I think the Lions just dug their hole way too deep, and they're playing a lot better now. But I think their fate was kind of set, and they're not, and then they're kind of done. Atlanta, I think reality set in Atlanta. The talent level is not there. And I think it's showing now. I think effort only got them so far this year. Green Bay, talking about digging a hole deep. I don't think with 8 losses now, I can't imagine that they're going to rip off 5 wins in a row or 13, maybe 4 games. 4 games in a row, I guess. Yeah, I don't think that they can rip off 4 wins in a row and maintain enough, make up enough ground, I should say, to get back in the playoff picture, and then everything else back behind them. It's just a mess. Arizona, Carolina, we don't even need to talk about them. So NFC wise, I mean, if you look at the playoff standings, I mean, Dallas, of course, always is a disappointment in the playoffs, but I would have to think unless we see something significant. Hello, Craft Bruiser. How are you? I just I'm kind of like half in, half out on your Broncos because they didn't exactly necessarily prove me wrong. I did not think they would win, but I did think they would cover because the Ravens did not deserve an 8-point spread. And sure enough, Broncos covered. They almost won, but they still covered. Good teams win, great teams cover. So I'll still lament the less ride squad, but at the same time, I'm happy that they took that 8 points and shoved it up the Ravens' ass. So that, yeah. just want to get that in so you don't have to go back and watch my little bit on the Broncos. And if rest of the NFC, I mean, I would have to no TDs today. Well, with your play calling, I'm surprised you have any touchdowns this season. Let's be completely honest. um, so going back and watch. That's why you're my man. That's why you're my man. Yeah, I mean, I would unless Tampa can show me something down the stretch here, I would still think Dallas should be the favorite to win that game. As of now, I do not think this will still be the matchup in a few weeks when the season's over. But as of now, the Giants are still slated to be the Niners. If the Giants show what they've showed the last few weeks, and the Niners show what they showed against Miami, they will absolutely wipe the floor of the Giants. That will not be close. And then Minnesota against Seattle, that would be a good game. Minnesota has not blown people out this year. They really have not. Other than the Packers game in week 1, and there may have been another week this year, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But Minnesota, I think Seattle could pull the upset on that. Although Seattle's in the 6th, maybe Washington is the 7th. Minnesota would probably prefer playing Washington to Seattle. Let's just be completely honest about that. But that's another thing. Like, would you rather play Seattle with a hot offense? Would you rather play Seattle with a hot offense, or would you rather play Washington, a lesser talented team, but with a good defense? So I don't know where you would stand if you're Minnesota there, because again, I just think Giants are going to fall off here. But I think the playoff picture is starting to firm out a little bit more. I mean, it's a little bit closer in the AFC, but the next two best teams, I just don't have any faith in either one of them. And I think the Raiders are just too little too late. And in the NFC, I think you got to figure out what's going on between New York, Seattle, and Washington, and everyone else. Detroit, similarly, too little too late, dug the hole too deep, and the rest of these teams are just absolutely pitiful. So I think obviously the biggest story from week 13 are the injuries. Lamar goes down against Denver. I'm not big on Baltimore. I think they're very much fool's gold. However, they still are in first place. I just would not have much confidence that they're going to do anything with that. Jimmy G going out to San Francisco. They played really well against a really good team in Miami. So maybe this kid's got a little bit of magic, but that is asking a lot for a third string quarterback. Maybe he's a rookie, second year, whatever the case may be. That could tell. I mean, is Jimmy G gonna light shit up and take you all the way to a Super Bowl? I mean, he has before, but he hasn't looked like he's gonna do it again this year. I don't know. I don't know where the Niners stand as far as throwing their weight behind this kid, or going back to going back to Jimmy G, trying to force him back. I don't think they should try and force him back, but that's besides the point. And of course, the other one is Kenny Walker with Seattle. And that significantly makes Seattle a lot more one-dimensional without him there. They already lost Penny early in the season. That opened the door for Kenny Walker to really take off. So 3 major injuries this week: Lamar Jackson, Jimmy G, and Kenny Walker. And I think all 3 of them, I don't think the Lamar Jackson one's going to make too much of a difference. Haven't been super big on Baltimore this year, but the other 2 could make a significant difference in this season. I'm going to go watch my Colts probably lose tonight. Hopefully we'll still cover, but probably lose. And I'll watch a little bit of Yellowstone either later on tonight, no spoilers, or maybe I'll just watch it tomorrow on demand. Enjoy the game, Bruiser, Lou. Thanks for hopping on. We'll see you next week as we wrap up another week. Cheers.